Hi, this is Matt Paulson. Today we're going to look at young Turks lying about Building 7 at the World Trade Center. Let's see what they have to say.
Right? I'm not running around saying 9/11 was an inside job. I'm not, I don't know, but I do know that there are some serious issues with what the, accepted narrative is. And in fact, they're about to get into an exchange in regard to Building 7. So let's go to the first clip.
Huge parts of the 9/11 story were left out of the commission report. For example, what happened to Building 7, which was not only not next to the Twin Towers, which were hit by airplanes, but had a building in between itself and those buildings, collapsed that afternoon for reasons that no one has been able to explain since. You're not a lunatic for asking.
So Tucker Carlson is helping these Turks to lie because the final report was issued in November of 2008. It's written by structural engineers and not civil engineers. Yes, Building 6 is between Building 1 and Building 7, but look at Building 6. See what it looks like. So Building 1 crashed right on next to Building 6, and the antenna on Building 1 actually hit Building 7, and the fires of Building 6 spread into Building 7, and that's what caused the initial collapse.
There's no plausible explanation for how that building collapsed.
So that's the issue at play here. That I wanted to give you that portion of what Tucker Carlson had to say, and Piers Morgan attempts to explain it to some extent by providing what he feels is a similar example of another building.
Just that building that is not anywhere near the other buildings, just melting down. I never thought that made any sense. And what we should expect from our government is logical answers.
So logical answers like the 9/11 Commission report issued in July of 2004 or the NIST report that came out in November 2008. If you don't read those reports, then you're going to say a lot of silly things like the government doesn't give you answers.
There has been another tower very similar to that in structure, which has since gone down in Tehran. So it's no longer the only one. In other words, there is another example of a tower like that collapsing.
Okay, so you can see Tucker Carlson smiling in response to what Piers Morgan is saying, probably because, okay, well, if you want to make that argument that the fire was so hot that it led to the collapse of Building 7, well, what happened to the building in between, right?
So you see Building 6 is between Building 7 and Building 1, and you can see that Building 1 is very tall, and it could reach Building 7 when it fell. So the tower on top of Building 1 hits Building 7 and does start a fire. And you can see the fires in Building 6 that spread to Building 7. So if you analyze the pictures, analyze the NIST report, you can see that there's a logical explanation of why Building 7 fell.
And nothing happened to that building? And so
I guess Anna never saw a picture of Building 6. It definitely sustained some damage.
I want to give Tucker an opportunity to respond to that, and then we can discuss.
What is the alternative explanation? I mean, if you're examining another theory, other than the one that the investigation concluded was simply that the North Tower came down, fires were set off in Tower 7, and then it eventually collapsed, what is the other theory which we should give more credence?
I don't know. I don't know that the onus is on me or anyone who seeks the truth about what happened to come up with an alternative theory. The onus is on federal authorities to explain why, for example, they never investigated it. Why, for example, the rubble and the steel from that building was carted off within hours and sent out of the country to
Oh, it doesn't take a genius to figure out where the material went to Building 7. So Building 7 steel and concrete was moved to Staten Island, Fresh Kills landfill, where some of the steel was examined and documented by investigators. It was not shipped out of the country.
Why, for example, an analysis done not by kooks, but by chemists found traces of explosive material in the dust from that day. Why structural engineers who have kind of no skin in this game came to the conclusion that that just couldn't happen based on all available evidence. And it was addressed at all or even mentioned in the 9/11 report. So
Tucker is very unaware of the NIST report of November 2008. 17 years later, and he's still pretending like there's no report existing. So we understand that the report clearly states that the fires were the cause of the collapse. There is no doubt.
And there are all kinds of anomalies, as I know that you're fully aware, and there are possible explanations to explain all of them. For example, the BBC report on air saying the building had fallen when it hadn't fallen yet
He's right about that BBC report, and Pierce later says that the BBC report was based on an erroneous report by Reuters. Okay.
Okay, that doesn't explain anything.
It doesn't.
How did Reuters know the building was going to collapse before it got hit?
Exactly. Yeah.
So look, I don't know those
We don't
details.
know. We don't.
So you don't know why Reuters retracted their wrong information about the building falling. So you don't know about the report then made by NIST. You need to study a little bit more before going to press with stuff that Tucker Carlson says, which is totally wrong.